we'll do introductions in a few minutes. But right now, we're going to get started with our first activity. So I'm going to use a quiet signal. If everybody who can see me will also use a quiet signal. And that way the person who's next to you maybe can't see me right now will see it's time to start. Thank you. All right, you should have gotten 2 handouts when you came in. You have a PowerPoint and you have the handouts that we'll be using tonight. My name is Shana, and I work with the induction program as a mentor, and I have seen lots of you many, many times. So, also we have Ernestine.
Hi, I'm Ernestine Hopwood. I'm a principal at Cesar Chavez Middle School. Glad to be here today with you, and I hope that you find our presentation enjoyable. We'll try to get you in and out before 6 o'clock so that you can join me at the board meeting tonight. Right. That's my goal, to take all of you to the board meeting.
She's recruiting you all. So what I meant by introductions was the introductions to the presentation. We're going to start that and kind of give you some background in a little bit. But we want to start you right off on some background building. So your first activity is listed on the screen, and you should have a handout that has the CTA evaluation article. And you're going to be reading pages 9 to 11 and page 16. And you're going to use these questions that are on your table as guiding prompts, giving you a purpose for reading as you do a close reading of this section of the article. Okay? So go ahead and take a look at those questions before you begin your reading of pages 9 through 11 and page 16. You have highlighters and pens in your BITSA boxes. Old term, we're now teacher induction, but that's okay. So please get started. We'll give you 5 to 6 minutes. It's not too long. I'll check in with you at that time. Okay, I'm going to use a quiet signal again. If you can also use a quiet signal so your colleagues can see that it's time to end our discussion. Thank you so much. Excellent. So before we get into this, I wanted to point out that our Basics for Excellent focus is focus on results together, which completely matches this session because this is all about collaborative goal setting. And so when you read this one, we work collaboratively to produce exemplary outcomes for our SBCUSD community. So that's what this night is going to be about, because we're going to talk about how do we collaboratively set goals. And that's a really big shift in the evaluation process for us. The goal setting piece, and also the idea of collaboratively going through an evaluation process where each person has input on it. So we'll look more closely at that. This is who is putting this on. There was a team, the joint evaluation team, that met and discussed multiple times what the evaluation system should look like. Lots of reading was done, lots of background building, and the modules came out of that. And this module in particular, Module 2, is being facilitated by the people on the screen. Tonight it's Ernestine and I, and next Tuesday as well. And then the other 2 will be finishing up the last 2 modules, Module 2 sessions for us. But we've all met together to make sure there's a consistent message. And as you can see, we are getting videotaped so that when you have a person on your campus that has never been through the training, or if there's a way to do some group meetings with teachers who weren't able to come, then you can have the videos for that. The reason I'm telling you that is that when we do some of our share outs, we will use a microphone. And I've been told that if you yourself who's sharing does not use the microphone, it does not come out well in a video. So please help us with that process. And when we do the share outs, don't be surprised when we put a microphone in your face. Okay. All right. So as we think about the whole big picture, we have these 4 modules. If you have not gone to Module 1 first, that's okay. This is not dependent on it. It would have been nice to have that overview first, but that's okay. You will be able to still be a participant in this session because the things that we have in front of you is all that you need for tonight's session, which is goal setting. And then you'll talk about effective feedback because, again, collaborative evaluation system. And then at the very final module, you'll actually get to see the documents and how to fill them out, okay? So we really didn't want it to be a training that was about documents and forms. We really wanted to focus more on the process behind it all so that everybody is clear on that process. So here's our outcomes. We would like for you to understand the goal-setting process that's in the new evaluation article. If you came to Module 1, you did read and take a look at the differences between the two, but this really focuses on the goal-setting part. So we'll do a quick review of what the article says on goal-setting. And then how do we set goals for the 3 categories that are listed in the article? We'll have a chance to get a little brief conversation about it. We don't have enough time to go into exactly the ways that you can write your best goals, but we have a lot of experts in the room who have written many goals in their lives, and you'll be working with those people as you're talking about how to set goals in the 3 areas. So you'll at least have some information about what this might look like, and you'll have a brief experience with goal setting by the time that you leave. And so part of that is having a conversation with somebody about goal setting. So we'll give you some tools to help you to have those conversations and to facilitate those conversations. That's another outcome that we hope that you experience. Okay? Questions so far? Okay. All right. Going back to the article that you just read, we would like for you to take this article as a way to look at evaluation and see how it matches what we're trying to do in the district. So it's a nice background building, a nice reference tool for us, and it gives us additional reasons why goal setting is important in our evaluation techniques, our evaluation process. So using these 3 questions, I'd like for you to deepen your conversation, going back to the article, and coming up with reasons why these things might be true or why your answers might be true. So a true close reading using text-dependent questions where you're looking back at the article for evidence. How might using multiple measures enrich our evaluation process? What role could goal setting play in supporting a veteran teacher and a beginning teacher? That's page 16. And why might it be important to consider both formative and summative goals? So that's the questions I'd like for you now to look back in the article and have a deeper conversation with your table group. Okay? Go ahead. Okay, I can hear a lull. That's good because we are going to wrap this up. I am using a microphone now because I know that it's hard sometimes in a room this large to hear when it's time to end. So if you could finish up your thought. And I'd also like for a brave soul to use the microphone to share how might using multiple measures in teacher evaluation enrich our evaluation process. Who could share an answer to that? Don't make me call your names. Thank you. Anna?
Ana Maria Perez, principal at Vermont, and I have my crew here and my team. We were all discussing on how, as teachers, we all look at, you can't base a student's score or a student's performance on just one measurable piece of data. You have to look at several pieces of data to be able to really give an assessment of what that child's needs really are. It's the same with teacher evaluations. We cannot simply say that a teacher's performance is based on, let's say, just their RCD unit scores. You can also look at the CEL scores. There are STAR Math or STAR Reading, other measures that will give an indicator of where the teacher's strengths are. We were discussing how at my school, I noticed that some of our teachers were panicking because their RCD units weren't as high as their STAR Reading or STAR Math, but it's an assurance of, wait a minute, but your STAR Reading and your STAR Math and all these other systems look really good. However, if they were all just flatlined, then you know that there's a greater issue. But the different measures is just a way of really looking at the teacher as a whole, not just as one piece of focus.
Thank you for sharing. So she's basically connecting our teacher evaluation process the same way that we talk to our teachers about how they assess their students. We should always use multiple measures. One test should never say anything definitive about a child that could have had a bad day, just like maybe one observation shouldn't say anything definitive about a teacher. They could have had a bad day as well. So I can thank you for sharing that. How about what role could goal setting play in supporting professional growth for a veteran teacher? Thank you, Carmen.
So, do I have to say my name or anything? No, okay. So one of the things we were talking about is that this will help teachers to become the professionals that they are. Because especially when I looked at the part about the portfolio, if you were in business, you would always have a working portfolio. You know, you always have evidence of, you know, this is a campaign I did for this, and there's some evidence of this. And as teachers, we need to be able to go into that meeting with, here's my artifacts, here's what I did for my students, here's a book I'm reading, here's this. And it may start forcing, especially veteran teachers and teaching new teachers, that you're a professional and that it's not about, and we talked a little bit about how, that you know how we say in our district we have a lot of passive learners. We also have a lot of, and I can say it because I'm a teacher and I love teachers, but we've become passive in allowing people to tell me who I am. It's like, I'm not going to let you tell me who I am. I'm going to show you. And it sets that professional dialogue between the two.
Great. So it can be a motivator as well. Having all those multiple measures can be a motivator to help a veteran teacher or even a beginning teacher set goals and say, look at what I've done. And let's all, you know, celebrate that. And I want feedback on that. So I appreciate that. And then why might it be important to consider both formative and summative goals for an evaluation? Anybody hear something great someone talked about at their table? They'd like to share their partner's response or their table group's conclusion? Mr. Chavez, did I see a hand? Kind of, maybe? No? Okay, thanks.
Well, you were talking about just as, you wouldn't give a test to your student after you did direct instruction for a month, that you would do something that was formative, hopefully in the between time, that you would want to do the same thing for your teacher. So rather than have an observation at the end of the year, that is just a summative account of how that teacher has done, that this process allows for formative assessment of all of these measures so that that teacher can actually grow.
And great analogy again, connecting it to what we do with students in the classroom. So let's take a look now at what our article says about goal setting. Do you want this or no?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Ernestine Hopwood. I introduced myself earlier, but I'll introduce myself again. I'm the principal at Cesar Chavez Middle School. I've been actually part of the evaluation process as a teacher and also as an administrator. So I'm quite familiar with Article 16. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Article 16. Okay, I bet each and every one of you are. What it is part of the contract that speaks specifically to our evaluation process. It's the agreement that we have on how the evaluation process should go. So in your handouts, you have a few pages from Article 16. So the handout looks like this. And if you turn to what looks like page 137, the first item that I'd like to point out, these are some differences. And how many of you have gone to the first module? So you got all this information. This is very redundant. How many of you have not gone? Just a few. So we're going to catch you up real quick. Bear with me for those who have. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. So jump right in if I say something that's out of line. Okay, Peg? All right. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is in Section 3, the individual initial meeting. And it says there that within the first 30 days of the school year, you are to meet one-on-one with your evaluator. In that meeting, you are to discuss, among other things that we're not talking about right now, but we are discussing the goals. So there's 3 agreement goals. There's one for the school, district, or community, and it may include a compensated or non-compensated co-curricular activity, okay? And then the second one is a professional goal. And this goal can be individual, site, or district-based. So your wheels are turning now, right? Because we're going to practice coming up with some of these goals in just a minute. And then the third one is a student outcome goal, just one, for next year. And then the following year, we're going to put 2 in there, okay? And the bullet below talks about where you can get the goals, or how you can connect them to what's going on to your specific school site. And it says that the goal may be connected to the single plan for student achievement. And I bet all of you have been involved in the writing of that document. And then the key performance indicators, which is the part of our strategic plan for our district. Or it could be collaboratively agreed upon student outcome indicators. I think the key word that we're looking at here is collaboratively. And that's what really needs to come to the forefront of our teaching staff as well as our administrative staff, that we need to work collaboratively to create these goals. That it's not just you're going to do this or I'm going to do this, but rather a discussion that happens, and then you come to an agreement on what the goals are going to be. So the second thing that I wanted to point out is letter B, goal setting. The goal setting form is a living document in that it can be modified at any time with mutual agreement. Both of you are agreeing that we're going to make this modification. You're all very educated, I know that. I'm not trying to really dumb it down, but I want to point out some very specific and key points if this is going to be successful. So the second item I wanted to point out is section 7 on the next page, page 144. It's the goal monitoring meeting, and it says that the evaluator and the evaluatee shall meet at least once a school year to effectively monitor and support the unit members' growth towards meeting their measurable goals as outlined in section 3A. And that's the one we just covered with the 1, 2, 3. The unit member shall provide evidence of progress towards each goal. So start thinking about what that evidence would look like. And then the evaluator and the unit member shall collaboratively, again, discuss and document progress, expectations of continued growth, as well as any additional support needed. And I think that's where the living part of this document comes in, that if you go midway or if you go quarterly in having these conversations, if there needs to be modifications, it's a perfect time to do that at these meetings, okay? And let's see if I have one more for you. If you turn the page, section 11, page 146, it talks about the end of year evaluation, and there's a specific point for goal assessment meeting. So I want to just point out number 2, and that is, at this meeting, the unit member shall provide evidence of progress towards each goal. The evaluator and unit member shall collaboratively discuss and document progress, areas of growth, and reflections. So I think pretty much my point is just that this is a collaborative process. And in my opinion, in my 16 years of being an evaluator, that's what's worked most effectively. It's in the coaching, it's in the conversation, it's in the goal setting, it's in the support provided by administration when we have a unit member who is in need of additional supports and resources. Let's see. Okay, so now we get up and move around and brainstorm. We have 2 sections. We have a blue section and we have a green section. And what we're going to do is Shana, because she's really good at this, is going to separate you into the 2 groups really quickly, because I would just let you go and figure it out yourself.
So just real fast, we're going to number off 1, 2, 3.
1, 2,
Done. Okay, so if you are a 1, 2, or 3, you can look at the chart that you're going to start at. I'll explain who goes where in just a second, but we basically have two sides of the room. Number 1, so you'll start at school district and community goals. You'll have the green side here, and you have the blue side right back there. Number 2s, you will start at professional goals. Back here is green. Over there in the corner is the blue side. And number 3s, student outcome goals, there's the blue. Student outcome goals, there's the green. So basically we're going to take this whole row right here, plus that back table where Santosh is. You guys will go to the blue side. So if you're number 1 in those tables, you're starting at school district. If you're a 2, you start at professional. If you're a 3, you start at student outcome goal. Does that make sense? Everybody else, you'll start on the green side. Okay, so it's these 5. Plus that group back there, they'll go over to the blue side. And what will happen is you'll start at your original chart. You'll discuss with your group about what kind of goal you would expect to see. That would be something that you would accept. And so the whole point of this is the conversation you have with each other. What does it mean to have a good goal? What does that even mean to you as a group, right? And you'll find out that there are some similarities and some differences, and you'll have that great conversation, and you'll come up with 1 to 3 that match the title, and your group member who has the marker will write that on the chart. So 1 to 3, make sure there's room left for the groups coming behind you, so there's 3 groups total. Each chart has a marker already under it. That one's on the floor because there was no chair over there. So, but everyone has a marker right underneath it. If you can't find yours, I will find it for you. So that makes sense. I will signal you when it's time to rotate to a new chart. So you'll get to every chart, all right? And then you'll go back to your original one as well. All right, okay, so go ahead and get up.
How about for community, maybe facilitating something that the parents have asked for, like maybe CBET classes or some sort of parent?
Community, I would say community would be something like if you wanted to participate in the single plan for student achievement, the document. The process.
Okay, we have one more group finishing up. All right, looks like they're coming to some conclusions. We'll start with school district and community goals. Let's wait for everybody to be ready. All right, here we go.
Hello. So our group came up with some different school district and community goals. The school goal or the site goal that we talked about was to develop a program, some kind of professional development workshop that you could give at your school. Our district goal was business outreach because we felt like that's at a lot of different schools and that's district wide with respect to the career pathways and whatnot. And then our community goal was some kind of no matter what it was, we felt like it needed to be parent requested because we feel like parents need parents have a lot of questions about a lot of different things. So whether it's high school or elementary school, we felt like that should be a really important point. So at high school it could be like a FAFSA workshop, or at elementary we talked about what did we talk about at elementary? Maybe A through G, or junior high or something to try to get those kids ready for high school. So, but we had really good goals to choose from. So, thank you.
So it sounded to me like there was some consideration about K-12 and also community engagement. That was important to them. Thank you. And on this side?
Okay, so for a school goal, we came up with, we just looked at adjunct duties, so we thought about all those things like math night, science night, different things that people are involved, or even clubs and different things like that teachers get involved in activities at the school. And for community, we put participating in a home visit program. I'd like to extend it and say also in the community activities of the community would also be good. So And then for district, we just said just become involved in some of the district committees. Just do something that's not just for your school, but for the whole district as a whole.
Great.
All right, so this group wants to focus on adjunct duties, participating in the community or doing some home visits, and joining a district committee. There's plenty. Come to the board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, now we had the professional goal.
Keeping in mind that the whole purpose in this new evaluation system is to grow our teachers. We looked at the higher education. We talked about supporting both our new and our veteran teachers on campus because we need to grow our own. So we don't want our teachers to start with us and then leave. We want to make sure that we're providing them with the level of support that they need to grow into the kinds of teachers that we need in our classrooms. And one of the ways that we talked about that was higher education. It could look like a national board certification. It could look like a master's degree or a doctorate in any area. It doesn't have to be administration or counseling. It could be a reading specialist. But any kind of additional higher education is going to make the teachers that we have in the classrooms better teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. So talking about kind of motivation too, I want to work on a professional goal, I want it to be this, so I want to get better at something, and how can the district and the school site help support that so that I continue to feel like I am learning forever? Sorry, over here. The other professional goal?
All right, with the professional goals, we kind of took a different approach because it's such a personal thing as far as what's needed by the teacher, what they think is something they should focus on for their goal. So what we looked at was what we thought would impact the students first. And we decided on this one, the culturally responsive teaching, because then it would be more specific to that classroom, that school, and then also it would give more buy-in to the students where they're seeing that they're being respected and would increase their trust as they learn. So it was difficult to decide on one, and that's what we decided on.
Okay.
Terrific. So what I'm hearing from this group is that they would really like to leave it up to the teacher about what they would personally want to do to increase their professional learning and professionalism, and not just leave it there, but that it would have an impact on their students. And one way in particular that they liked is the cultural responsive teaching.
And that leads us right into, last but not least, student outcome goals.
All right, we have a lot of things going on here, and all of them are awesome, and they are also measurable. And we wanted something, of course, that was going to be measurable and something that was also formative, so that we're not looking at SBAC scores at the end of the year and then those kids are gone, but we're looking at, grades. We're looking at attendance. We're looking at something that we can fix throughout the year and work on. And so what we chose was lowering D's and F's in your classes. And we thought, yes, those are a part of our KPIs, but that's also something that if we are able to do, we can increase student engagement, we can increase student attendance, we can increase student accountability, we can move towards making sure that they're raising their growth in math and ELA, we can move towards higher graduation rates, EL reclassification. So we kind of came down to this is so important in raising confidence levels of our kids and improving all other areas.
Thank you. So they chose a goal that they felt would have a larger impact on a larger scale. Thank you for that. And I heard keywords like formative and measurable, which is something we need to consider as well. How about the last group, student outcome goals?
For our student outcome goals over here, we chose growth in student AR reading or math level. And we liked a little bit the broadness of this in that all the students are moving, and also, as you pointed out, it is also formative. It's not all at once measurable. You can kind of track these things and work with these things. Also, keeping in mind that you would differentiate from student to student. We said growth. We didn't choose a percentage. We didn't choose a final outcome. For some students, based on their learning needs, based on their time in the class, based on lots of things, a year's growth might not be enough, or part of a year's growth might be a big outcome. So just we like the broadness of this, growth in student AR rating or math levels.
Thank you.
So one of the things that this group in particular felt that they needed to focus on is the keyword growth. And so I can appreciate that because our kids are at so many different levels. So I think that's a wonderful goal that we focus on student growth, and we're going to move into supports for these individual items in just a minute, because my head's already going there. Like, okay, as a principal, what do I have to provide for my teacher with this goal? I have to make sure that they have AR reading and math, and they have access to that. So that would be the next turn that my head would take. But at this time, I'd like to ask, Peg, do you have anything to add about what we've compiled here? No? We thought initially when we planned this, we came up with goals and we were going to present them to you. And we thought, no, because we have smarter people in the room. So we're going to allow all the compilation of all the great ideas that you have in your own personal experience to come up with this, because really, there's really no right or wrong answer, in my opinion.
I didn't come to steal the show. I actually came to support the team who is doing the module around goal setting, and it's part of Perry's and my intent to do that for each one of the groups that are doing the separate modules. But one of the things that I would point out to all of you, in going through what was on the charts, you had a prime example of the feedback process in collaborative decision making that is very necessary. By the way, both Ernestine and Shana recaptured what each of those groups were putting out there. So I ask you to keep that skill set in the back of your mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will be thinking about that skill set, because the next part is to talk about how do we have those conversations, okay? So you have some tools, and in your packet you will see a goal setting conversation guide that has titles on it that look like this. So the first one says activating engagement. Should be next in your packet after the article. The second place a conversation might go is into exploring and discovering. And lastly, a collaborative goal-setting conversation may lead you to organizing and integrating. If you've been through any coaching training, this might look very familiar to you as a pathway of a coaching conversation. So it's just a scaffold for you when you're thinking about having those goal-setting conversations with some sample questions that you might use, keeping in mind that we like to use plurals and have positive intentionality, and take away the vague language. So if you just want to take a minute just to look through the questions, there's only 9 of them, so take a minute to read through those questions. Another tool that you have, if you go past that conversation template, is the self-assessment for CSTP 6. This is actually in the evaluation forms, but it's something that teachers will fill out prior to setting their goals. So it's not something where they're going to come in and say, I've found my goal, but yet it's a conversation starter. I was reading through Standard 6 on professional goals, and sorry, I should have said that. In particular, the professional growth goal that they're going to set can come from this document. And it really can lead into other CSTPs as well. When you start looking at this document, it's quite comprehensive and can lead a conversation into many different places. So if somebody has already read this through and have some idea of where they want to go with their professional growth, it can really facilitate that conversation that you're having. So for example, in a few minutes, you are going to be having a coaching conversation with a colleague not at your table. And so it's going to be where you have a practice. So I just want to give you an example of what you might do to prepare for that conversation. So looking at the self-assessment, I might be looking through, and I'm looking at the elements. 6.1 talks about reflecting on teaching practice. 6.2, establishing professional goals. 3 is collaborating with colleagues. 6.4, working with families. Oh, I like that one. That makes me think of something that I know that I want to improve upon in my own professional growth. And so I start looking across, and I'm reading the descriptors, and I'm thinking, okay, I think that I would like to draw from my understanding of the community to improve and enrich the instructional program. That's a goal I'm setting for myself. So now, of course, I'm going to need support from someone to help me with my goal and to narrow it so it can be measured, to figure out where I'm going to check in along the way, and all of those different resources I'm going to need. And that's what the conversation template then does. So if you go back to it, you know, you might start your conversation asking about their goals and then try to help them narrow it and massage it so it turns into something they feel very comfortable with and you feel comfortable with supporting them, okay? So right now you're going to take a minute to look through the CSTP 6 self-assessment and identify a place that you could say, this is a goal for me, to have a role play conversation in just a moment. Okay, so look through it just to see how the document works, and you're going to choose one. You're not going to assess yourself on all elements of the standard. Just kind of look through it like I did. Choose an area that you could have a conversation about. Okay, so the role play activity will take place in a standing conversation with somebody who is not at your table. So you'll just make eye contact with someone in the room. And you will decide who the teacher will be and who the evaluator will be. And the first round, if I'm the teacher, I will share that goal that you just chose off the CSTP 6. If I'm the evaluator, I'm going to use this conversation guide to talk to you about your goal. Okay? And then when we give you the signal, you'll just switch roles. Does that make sense? Questions about what you're going to do? So the coach or evaluator will have the coaching conversation guide and use it to talk to the other person, the teacher, about their goal in professional growth. Okay, so find someone in the room that you haven't spoken to maybe.
How could you measure? How would you?
Well, I was thinking that I can measure by either a survey with my colleagues that I will be collaborating with, or I can see if I'm able to collaborate with more, because right now I'm just collaborating with one 6th grade that is the same as me. But if I can get the other 6th graders to collaborate with me, even if it is after school or before school, then that increases the numbers of members in my team.
Mm-hmm. So that would be measurable. How
Yeah.
many
maybe just as a leader encouraging them, or if it's a grade level's turn to present, maybe, you know, I'm just saying, hey, you know, does somebody else want to present? So, because I think oftentimes when you're constantly hearing from the same person, you're kind of like, oh, it's her again, you know, or it's him again. So it's kind of nice if somebody else has something to share.
I agree.
Time, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I meet with them individually.
All right. Well, good afternoon. We are 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Isn't that great? Woohoo! You're doing a fabulous job. The level of engagement here is really high. So I want to thank Shana for doing a great job. And for you, I know it's late. I know you've had a long day. And I know you're gearing up for that board meeting. So I want to make sure to try to get you out of here as soon as possible. So we're going to keep the ball rolling here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to have a quick debrief because you missed your friends, right? Shana was very mean and she said, go out and find somebody that you don't know and be brave and have a conversation. And so hopefully you had a great opportunity to practice and make a new friend. And what we want you to do is take a look at these 3 questions and take about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to just have a quick conversation about these 3 questions, and then we'll have just a few people share out. We won't go to every table. So if you want to be the lucky one, have a good conversation, and you can share out in 5 minutes. Go. So I was thinking that you were debriefing everything we presented today, but your debrief was in particular to the practice that you had, the tool that you used that Shana made for us. So I want to thank Shana for making that great tool. Woohoo! I actually observed, one or two people picking out specific questions and keeping that conversation going. And I'm seeing some heads nodding. So it was very beneficial. And then hopefully Shana will share some of those resources with us, because maybe some of us, looking in the mirror, have not had exposure to coaching tools like that. So that would be very beneficial for us. Any other ahas as you had the conversation around those 3 questions?
In our conversation, we identified that I think, from a teacher standpoint, that it would be beneficial if the teachers actually were provided the questions ahead of time so that they were prepared, particularly what resources or how can I support you, because you really need time to think about that. And so if they're getting that ahead of time, then they're not having to scramble at that moment, but they know this is going to guide our conversation, and so I'm thinking about that ahead of time, and it'll make the conversation more meaningful because we've already been thinking about it.
That's a great idea. Just include those questions in the packet that we hand out. Any other recommendations or resources that you came up with that we might need to in the back there?
At our table, we were discussing that a lot of times, especially with new teachers, they're going to want to do these big goals because they're going to want to impress you as the administrator. And so as the administrator, having their best interests at heart, both professionally and personally, and just helping them not to be overwhelmed and stressed out, especially when they're just starting out. It's up to the site administrator, the person that's on the other side of the conversation, to say, well, what do you think about maybe, this particular goal, or it's sometimes, what does Dr. Volkmer say? Go slow to go fast. Those type of conversations where you're kind of it's wonderful that they want to go, big measurable goals, but sometimes as an administrator, knowing your teachers very well, knowing their strengths, and knowing where their capacities are, it's also good for the evaluator to kind of maybe help them set those smaller goals that are not going to overwhelm and make them more successful, and still build upon it for the next following year or the following year after that.
Thank you. Any other ahas? Yep, good, thank you.
So there was a question at our table that got posed that I thought was very interesting in terms of some teachers who may say, well, what do you think I should do? It's very easy to fall into that trap and actually being able to use some more coaching models to say, well, it's not about what I think, it's about making sure we have a collaborative conversation. And yet I think it's very easy to fall into, well, I got some ideas for you. And then it becomes a one-sided conversation. So just being aware that could easily be slipped into.
Thank you. Any other recommendations or back here? I'm going to leave you out. Okay. All right. So give yourself a nice round of applause or pat on the back or shake of your leg, whatever it is that you do to celebrate, because you have done a great job this evening, and we want to thank you. But before you leave, we have a ticket out the door because we are good teachers. So the ticket out the door is your plus minus delta. Please keep in mind that Shana and I, this is our very first time presenting this module, so be kind. We want to get better though, so give us some plus minus deltas for this meeting today. If you had a good time with us today, we are presenting again on Thursday with a modification, so you can come back and see if we've made those improvements on Thursday. And if not, if you're not sick of us yet, you can follow me down to the Board of Ed for the meeting tonight. Thank you.